It's 6 o'clock, so I'll go ahead and officially start today's informative webinar, which is specifically focused on managing stress in dogs using CBD. And first of all, I'd just like to say thank you for taking the time to join us here. You probably can't see me yet as I have the presentation up, but you'll see me in a photo in a moment. In the meantime, please, if you could give us your attention now. The presentation will take about 20 minutes, and after that, there will be time for questions. I'll try to quickly stop sharing my screen and address any questions in the chat, if there are any. If you'd like to ask something later, my contact information will also be provided. So once again, welcome. Today, I would like you to understand and better grasp how CBD can help, for example, your own dog, so that they can live more calmly and perhaps even more happily. To get things started, I wanted to introduce myself first. This is me, the one in the middle, and on the left and right are my two helpers. One of them is here with me now during the webinar to give me courage. My name is Lucy Grabashova, and I am the author of the animal product line at Zelena Zemlya. The animal product line came about thanks to my senior dog, who was already struggling with some ailments, and over time it just kept growing until today it has become quite a wide range of different products. Together with my colleagues, I am also in charge of the hemp advisory service for animals, where we provide daily advice on product selection and appropriate dosing. And last but not least, I am a passionate lover of all living things. Because dogs are definitely not where it ends in our household, but that's not what today's webinar is about, so let's get started. First of all, I'd be interested to know whether you, and you don't have to answer me now, just answer for yourself, recognize your dog in these situations. For example, when there's a thunderstorm, does your dog try to hide or start shaking? Or when there are fireworks, like on New Year's Eve, which is coming up soon, does your dog panic, try to run away, or hide under the bed? When you're driving in the car, does your dog whine or even suffer from motion sickness and throw up? When left alone, does your dog destroy things or show signs of separation anxiety? When a vet visit is coming up, does your dog start shaking all over? Most dog owners know this situation. Most dog owners are familiar with this. Or when your dog hears sudden, sharp noises, does it tend to bark or act restless? Or on the other hand, maybe your dog just doesn't like changes. Because if you answered yes to any of these questions or situations, I think you're in the right place for this webinar. And I wanted to reassure you because you're not alone in this. According to a study by the University of Helsinki, which involved more than 13,000 dogs, up to 72.5% of them suffer from some form of fear or anxiety. For example, fear of noises, separation, or strangers. So you can see that stress and fear really trouble the majority of dog owners, and it's definitely good to do something about it. And what exactly is fear? To understand how hemp can help a dog with fear, let's first talk about what fear actually is. Fear is a natural reaction of the organism to danger. The brain sends a signal, warning, threat, and the body prepares to flee. In dogs specifically, stress hormones are released, namely adrenaline and cortisol. Their breathing speeds up, their heart rate increases, and their muscles tense. At that moment, the animal isn't thinking, it only reacts instinctively. Most of the time, that instinct tells the animal, warning, danger, run away. When this happens repeatedly, you can probably imagine that the animal's body never gets to rest. The dog remains in a constant state of tension, is irritable, and of course then sleeps poorly, can't relax, and may also have various digestive issues, diarrhea, and so on. And this is exactly where CBD comes into play. And CBD, or cannabidiol, helps dogs manage stress in a natural way. Not by sedating them, as many people think and often comment, like, if I give my dog cannabis, he'll just switch off. But he doesn't actually switch off. The CBD simply restores balance in his body. In a dog's body, there is what's called the endocannabinoid system, which affects both the nervous and immune systems. CBD does not bind directly to its CB1 and CB2 receptors, but instead influences them indirectly. And in doing so, it supports the body's own ability to cope with stress. It increases the levels of substances such as anandamide, which is known as the molecule of happiness, and has a calming effect while also activating serotonin receptors in the dog, which contributes to feelings of calm and safety. Thanks to this, even in challenging situations, the dog can calm down more easily without losing focus or energy. I intentionally wrote and left this slide exactly as it is because I think it's really important for you to understand how CBD actually works in dogs. And some people might grasp it better when they see it written out like this, which is why you have it here. Of course, the recording will be available so you can look at this again later. Here, I also wanted to show you that dogs, and in fact all mammals, have cannabinoid receptors. But specifically in dogs, they are distributed throughout the entire body, from the brain all the way to the large intestine. So you often hear, for example, that CBD is a cure-all. Well, in a way, it is a sort of cure-all, but that's only because the cannabinoid receptors are spread out like this. So it can have a comprehensive effect and help maintain balance in the body, and even calmness. So CBD, especially in relation to stress, which is what we're talking about today, can definitely help calm you down, assist with anxiety and hypersensitivity, support better sleep and recovery, and most importantly, it has no intoxicating effects. I've deliberately written here veterinary product. It's extremely important that animals receive approved veterinary products. Only with these can you be sure that the product is THC-free. Animals, especially very small breeds, cannot process THC. They practically can't break it down, similar to alcohol, and at higher doses, it could really have a negative effect on them. However, as soon as you see that a product is labeled as a veterinary product, you can tell because there is always a veterinary product number on it, you can be sure you are working with a safe product. So now let's talk about when to use CBD. There are two aspects that I have divided it into. One is preventive, and the other is for acute situations. Prevention is absolutely the best thing you can do, of course. If you have a dog that is naturally anxious or overly sensitive, you can give them CBD to help them calm down, sleep better, and just have a more comfortable life overall. Or you use it when you start noticing a bit of a problem, like separation anxiety, or you often observe that your dog is restless. Or you can start giving CBD preventively, for example, if you're moving or a new family member is joining, so your dog can get used to the changes more quickly. Or you can start giving CBD before a stressful period. New Year's Eve, vacations, training sessions, of course, training itself shouldn't really cause much stress, but here we're mainly talking about New Year's Eve. And really, if your animal has trouble with New Year's Eve, one of the best things you can do is simply start giving it in advance as a preventive measure. It's much harder to work with the product otherwise. After all, it's still a natural product, so if you give it on the 31st in the morning, you can't expect as much from it as you would if you started giving it, say, 2 to 3 weeks in advance. The body, the endocannabinoid system, starts working with the CBD, and really, believe me, the effect will be much greater. And then there are the acute cases where CBD can, of course, also be used. This could be before a thunderstorm, or for example, before fireworks, before a visit to the vet, or before a competition or exhibition. I actually have experience with this from practice. I remember a lady came to see me at work with her dog, and they were about to go to a show. It was a poodle. I just couldn't remember the breed for a moment. And the dog was always terribly nervous at shows, so she decided to support him with CBD. And then they wrote to me that they won the show, that the dog really bonded well with the lady that day and was able to focus extremely well. Yes, of course, you obviously can't expect to go to a show, not have trained with your dog at all, give him CBD and have the dog win. Training is necessary. There has to be some training beforehand, but it simply helps the dog focus better on you in that moment. And of course, CBD can also be used in sudden stressful situations. But I repeat again, prevention is always the best thing you can do. And as for dosage and safety, that's a question that often interests you. How much CBD is just right for your dog, whether you can overdose them, and what about long-term use? I'll switch to the slide I have here in front of me, the next slide, and that's actually about dosage. Generally, Zelena Zemlya offers either CBD oil or CBD treats in their range. We'll talk about that later. For now, I focus specifically on the CBD oil, since that's where you most often ask about dosage, and it's always important to choose the right concentration. In general, we recommend the 2% CBD oil for dogs up to 5 kilograms. For dogs between 5 and 15 kilograms, we recommend the 5% CBD oil, and for dogs over 15 kilograms, we recommend the 10% CBD oil. But this recommendation is really very individual, because it's not uncommon for someone to call our counseling line with a very anxious dog that weighs only about 7 kilograms. And in such cases, we might immediately start with the 10% drops, because we know that with lower dosing, it can have a greater effect on the dog than if you were to give high doses of the 5% CBD oil. So these are the guidelines. For the 10% drops, the recommended daily dose is 1 drop per 4 kilograms of the dog's body weight. For the 5% drops, it's 2 drops per 4 kilograms, and for the 2% drops, it's 4 to 5 drops. Drops per day per 4 kilograms of body weight. These are general recommendations based on studies, which you can of course follow. It won't harm your dog in any way. And if you want to find out more specific information, definitely reach out to our advisory service. We can recommend the appropriate dosage tailored specifically for you. And actually, I wanted to add something here about whether it's possible to overdose a dog. Practically speaking, you can't, especially if you're using the veterinary product. If you were to give your dog too many drops, what would happen is that he might just get tired and sleep better. But we've also had cases in our consultations where owners accidentally spilled the whole bottle. And since dogs really like the taste of these oils, the dog licked up the entire oil at once and absolutely nothing happened to him. He just slept better, that's all. At most, in case of an overdose, he might get a bit of diarrhea, but these are all short-term effects that shouldn't pose any threat to his life. As for the long-term use of CBD in dogs, it's generally recommended with CBD. Especially if you're giving it preventively, it's recommended to take a break for about a week every 5 to 6 months so the body can cleanse itself, and then you can start giving CBD again. And some even recommend taking this break because of the effects of CBD itself. Liver, here I have my own personal experience. My old dog, the one I mentioned at the beginning, took CBD right up until his last day. He lived to be 17 years old and weighed 32 kilos. So he wasn't exactly small. I regularly had his blood tested every 3 months, and everyone was always amazed at how great his test results were. CBD definitely had no negative effects on him, even with long-term use. And we really started giving him CBD when he was about 12, and from then on, we continued without interruption. So in my opinion, yes, CBD can be given long-term. And here I also wanted to share with you a scientific study that was published last year, in which scientists observed a group of dogs who had been struggling with stress during car rides for a long time. Because, for example, car rides are a very common question in the summer when people want to travel and have dogs who aren't completely comfortable in the car, so they might shake, drool, whine, or even vomit. So in this study, which ran for 6 months, these dogs received a small amount of CBD every day, and the results showed that their levels of stress hormones significantly decreased, and at the same time, their behavior during car rides improved. They were calmer and less nervous, and they cooperated better. When someone contacts us wanting help with space camp because of car rides, we recommend a specific concentration of CBD oil or alternatively CBD treats. But we always make sure to inform them in advance that it definitely requires some training and longer-term administration. It has happened to us in practice, though less often now, that someone really just gives 2 drops. They get in the car and are calm. The animal must have a very sensitive organism, but more often what happens is that the CBD is given regularly and the animal gradually copes better with the stressful situation and gets used to the car ride specifically. And now, oil or treats. Here, regarding the CBD oil, I would like to clarify something. Customers sometimes ask us about this as well. What is the difference between CBD oil and CBD drops? There is no difference in the oil at all. There is absolutely no difference. CBD oil and CBD drops are one and the same. It's always a little bottle like this, which has a dropper. Here I write that every dog can choose for themselves. And I write that because, as we've already seen, we have several concentrations. And in fact, at Zelena Zemlje, we even have 5% and 10% concentrations with bacon flavor. That's for the real gourmets and connoisseurs. And while, for example, those CBD treats come in more royal flavors and are very easy to administer, they're more suitable for smaller or more sensitive dogs because I always say they're kind of an alternative to the 5% CBD oil in terms of the effects of CBD. With the CBD oil, the effects kick in faster, while with the treats, the onset of effects is a little slower because the CBD is given with food. But with CBD oil, the dosing can be a bit more difficult. It really depends on the person, but we have owners who, for example, struggle to drip the oil into the dog's mouth. The correct way to do it is to lift the dog's lip, and since the oil comes with a dropper, you drip it onto the gum. Not every dog can handle having their owner put something in their mouth. With that product, though, there's no problem. Dogs usually take it very well. And then you also have the option to drip it onto your finger and let the dog lick it off, which is often done with cats as well. Or you can simply go for the CBD treats instead. Or we also have owners who want to give their dogs both, and it's always a good idea to split the CBD product into several doses throughout the day, ideally to give it to the dog twice a day, for example. So we have plenty of owners who, for instance, give drops in the morning and then treats in the evening as a reward. So you can't go wrong with either product. It's always important to weigh the pros and cons and decide which one will work better for you and your dog. And I also wanted to include a bit of a summary here about how CBD has helped others. Here I pulled an article from the magazine Dog, Man's Best Friend, which was about a female dog named Rousey. I actually met Rausinka in person, so she's a soul I'll never forget. And when Rousey arrived, this is the article that was published in that magazine. She looked something like this. She was really terribly neglected. She wouldn't let anyone touch her. And trying to put her on a leash was a nightmare. It just wasn't possible. The Dogoland Association, which took care of her, really worked wonders with Rousey. We were also very actively supplying CBD there because, among other things, Zelena Zemlje also supports shelters. And thanks to the combination of training and the natural supplement, this dog became this happy pup. She turned into a confident, happy, sweet female. And by the way, Dogoland worked with Rousey for 2 years, just so you can imagine what a truly terrible state she was in. And Rousey managed to find a home. She now has a doggy sister and is enjoying life. And I think no one would ever guess that just a few years ago she looked like that. Doug Holland is a great example of how, when you really combine quality training with care, with a quality veterinary product, everything can really come together and work. Then I went through the product reviews, independent feedback from our customers, and I was looking for something specifically on the topic of stress and calming. And this schnauzer popped up at me, about whom the owner writes here that he's a bit of an autistic, that he overthinks everything, and the only thing that calms him down is playing fetch with a tennis ball. By the way, I also have one such autistic at home. Overall, using the drops put him at ease. He's more balanced outside and pays better attention to what I say to him. We kept giving him the drops even during the summer when he was inexplicably scratching himself and the vet had no idea what could be causing it. He stopped scratching. He is my great teacher, my life companion, and I am grateful and proud that I can watch how these drops for dogs have calmed him down. Today he is 7 years old and weighs 31 kilos. Then I pulled up some more references. The one at the top is actually from June of this year. These drops are a great help for a nervous dog. We have an older dachshund who was nervous, barked all the time, and would occasionally snap at someone. After using the drops, he calmed down and hasn't snapped at anyone since. Another review tells us that they started giving the drops to their dog because of car sickness and general restlessness. We've been using them for a while, and I have to admit he's improved tremendously. He's calmer, and the car doesn't bother him at all anymore. And then we have another review here. I got the drops for my dog for pain relief and calming, and there was an improvement. And actually, there's one more, which was just a month ago. I thought it was nice, so I wanted to include it. Ma'am, thank you for your advice. My dog is calmer now. I had bought them once before, then the drops ran out, and after about 3 days, the little one started freaking out. So I bought them again and he's better now. I bought the shampoo, but so far I've only bathed him in it once. So I don't know yet. The little rascal just doesn't want to be brushed. He doesn't want to tell me anything, but I feel like he's more lively, so maybe the pain has eased too. He has more strength in his legs, so he's more of a handful, which I'm grateful for. What more could you want for Popecek when he's 13 years old and sick? But I think it's wonderful that the drops have managed to improve his senior life like this. And we're actually getting close to the end of this webinar. In a moment, there will be time for your questions. And here with 2 exclamation marks, I've prepared a list of things to watch out for. So what should you watch out for? There are 3 things that came to mind when I was making this slide. The first is giving too high a dose on the very first day. The second is expecting a miracle without any training. And the third is using a low-quality product without certification. So I'll start from the end. A low-quality product without certification, these are exactly those veterinary products because unfortunately in practice and out in the field, we very often encounter cases where someone takes CBD oil, sticks a picture of a dog on it, and simply markets it as CBD oil for dogs. But I'll say it again. Unless there's a veterinary approval number on the box, or for example in the product description on the website, it is not a veterinary product. Alternatively, on the SKVBL website, which is the institution that approves these products, you can always look up the specific product or manufacturer and verify that it is registered. Expecting a miracle without training, yes. Here the focus is very much on stress, separation anxiety, fear, and car rides. You can't expect that if I give my dog 2 drops and put him in the car, when for 2 years he was scared and trembling in the car, that it will just suddenly disappear. We're still working with a natural remedy, and just like Daya in Dogoland, who worked with Rousey, she commented very aptly. She said, these drops won't do the work for you, but they will greatly speed up the process for you to achieve the result faster. That's what I always tell people, especially in these highly stressful situations. And giving too high a dose right on the first day is actually tied to expecting some kind of miracle without any training. So start dosing more slowly. It's better to let the animal get used to it. You can increase the dose at any time at intervals of 2 to 3 days. Hello, please go ahead. Is it possible to drip the oil, for example, onto a biscuit? Yes, that's definitely possible. You can either drip it onto a biscuit, or maybe even better, you can really drip the oil onto your hand and let the dog lick it off. But if there's no other way, then it's perfectly fine to use the biscuit. Then there's a question here from a lady who would also like to ask how to start dosing 10% CBD oil. For the mentioned female dog, who is 4 years old, weighs 21 kilos, is a mixed breed, part bull type and possibly part bloodhound. Adopted in May this year from Bosnia, she is afraid of loud noises, even small ones like something clinking. The lady is worried about New Year's Eve. How and when should I start giving her the oil so that we can at least take her out for a walk? Well, I definitely recommend that you start giving her the oil as soon as possible. Ideally, you can start as early as November, especially since this little girl reacts so strongly even to things that are already happening now. She's afraid even of clapping or louder noises. I wouldn't hesitate at all to start her on CBD oil as early as November. And I would go ahead and give it to her twice a day for now. Here I have a 21 kilogram dog, so for now, I would give her 3 drops twice a day. From mid-December, I would start giving the dog 3 drops 3 times a day, and possibly even before New Year's Eve. We could easily increase the dosage then. I would ask you, Mrs. Radilova, to contact me before New Year's Eve, maybe about 2 weeks in advance. By then, you'll have been on this dosage for a month, so we can discuss how things are going, how you feel about it, and how to possibly adjust the dosage during the New Year's period. So otherwise, there don't seem to be any other questions here. So if anyone else wants to ask something, just send me an email. It was in the presentation, but I'll repeat it here. It's luciazelena.zemi.cz. Oh, and pardon me, Mrs. Radilova, I'll definitely repeat it for you. So the email is luciazelena.zemi, or you can write or call me. 739 425 74. You can also find it on our website. Mrs. Hradilova, I gave you some advice here. For your female dog, I suggested that it would be best to start the CBD as early as the beginning of November. For now, I would give her 2 or 3 drops twice a day. From around mid-December, we would increase it to 3 drops 3 times a day. Or maybe even earlier, since New Year's Eve is at the end of December, perhaps we could increase it to 3 drops 3 times a day starting from the first week of December. And ideally, about 14 days before New Year's Eve, you would contact me and let me know how things are going on your end. If you feel that it has had an effect on the female dog, which it definitely should by then, we'll just discuss to what extent it has affected her and how to proceed with it around New Year's Eve. So we'll definitely stay in touch and work it out together. Is this answer sufficient for you, or is there anything else I can clarify? Yes, exactly. From November, that's when I would start with it. And intentionally starting from November, because as you mentioned that your dog is already having some issues, I wouldn't leave it until the last minute. And definitely use the discount code webinar15 so you can get the product at an even better price. All right then, so I think I'll wrap up this webinar now. I apologize that the live stream cut off when we were answering questions. Next time we'll be a bit smarter. I won't turn off the presentation. Absolutely, Mrs. Hortenska. There will be a link to the entire webinar. Feel free to send us your email in a message. I'll add you to the list of people to whom I'll be sending the webinar recording. And Mrs. Radilova, yes, you can add it to a biscuit. The very best way is to put it on your hand and let the dog lick it off. But you can also give it on a biscuit. That's perfectly fine. That's also an option. Well, all right, I think it's time to say goodbye now. I wish you a beautiful autumn evening. If you're at home with the kids on holiday, I hope you enjoy it. Give all your furry friends a pet from me, and I look forward to staying in touch. I'm glad you could see me like this, and now you know who you're in touch with in the counseling office. I'm looking forward to it. Take care and have a nice evening.